It's painful. I'm just telling my neighbors.
The YouTube live is on. We're on Zoom.
Oh, there's John, friend John.
You guys okay?
No,
Okay.
we're good. I didn't wear long pants here because I didn't know it's gonna be so chilly.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, guys. Well, we can't. I road. I was doing air conditioning. I was good too.
I know.
And they didn't want that.
Hi.
Hi, Val, how are you?
Oh.
I'm uncomfortable.
Not that. Order. Welcome, everybody. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. The roll call, we have Meredith, Niffy.
Here.
Dave Primer is excused. Steve Green is not present. I did not get an excuse from him. So we'll give him a few minutes, but we do have a quorum, so we can. He's what?
And your view.
Yes, and I'm here, I think. Are there additions or deletions to the agenda?
I would like to add authorization to apply for the public buildings electrification grant.
Say that slowly.
Public buildings electrification grant.
Public building electrification grant. Okay, and that would go
You can go at the end or with other stuff around.
5.4 new business, 5.4. Okay, we are,
We're also gonna,
4.1, we're pushing to next month.
Yes.
That's the Station 83 Drainage Engineers Report.
so push that till next month. And
For
then
next month,
the discussion or the action and discussion item that was listed underneath TAC.
4.2.
We have not received our final or updated quote from our vendor on that, so we'll have a discussion on our initial findings with TAC. But we will not, I don't believe you guys can have a vote on moving forward with that contract yet.
Why not?
Okay.
If we have an updated, you're supposed to give us an updated quote.
Will be higher or lower? What I'm saying is like, if it's within, so if we have a quote, if we have a number for what it is for the year.
Yeah.
And if the quote is within, I don't know, 20% higher, then we can still approve that.
Chris, do you think, is it going to be within 20%?
Let me do some quick math. I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay,
It's not gonna double from what we
No.
kind of discussed. Okay,
okay.
Okay,
So we'll just leave it as an action item.
I'm
and-
fine with that.
Okay,
he'll address that when we get to the item on the
okay.
agenda. Okay,
I did send, Chief Enright did create a one pager for the board that's been sent to your guys' email if you guys want more information on it.
okay. All right, are there any conflicts of interest
None.
of the board related to any agenda items? I see none. 2.1 is approval of the May 23rd meeting minutes. That's an action item. I'll look for a motion.
I would move to change the minutes back to our standard policy.
Okay, but are you gonna approve? Or you don't want to approve these
I don't wanna
minutes?
approve These minutes, but I can't move to approve the minutes and then vote against.
Gotcha. Okay, so a motion to approve,
And it's per our normal policy.
okay, well, first we have to not approve these minutes, right?
No.
No? Okay,
If anyone's made a motion to approve them, I could. Meredith, I'm sorry.
what are you thinking?
I actually got a very nice email from Dave congratulating me on the minutes and asking that I continue to do it. And I am willing to do it. Can you accept them the way they are, or do you have any minor modifications?
There are some, the challenge that I have is, when they talk about the secretary's position, what you recorded were, it shows one side of the conversation and it shows it as being negative, as opposed to going into all the other things that were stated in support of how the secretary is doing.
Is that?
No, that's his radio, I think.
Oh. Well, I kind of disagree with that. I stated the positive things that I was doing. That noting the live streaming and recording on YouTube and the timing of the discussions on the recording. I feel like I had some positive feedback. So
I agree that you I didn't see what Dave sent. Obviously, his wife drafted the minutes and it's much of what, her comments were.
I changed that, quite a bit of it there.
Right. No, I'm just saying that I don't disagree with the minutes. My issue is
Format.
it's just we had a policy, and are we going to change the policy? Because we should be doing things in the policy that we have for the minutes, and there will be a time when there will be vehement disagreement about it. And you saw Mr. Green's response to.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
I also saw Mr. Primer's response, and it was positive. So,
There are three of us here, so if two of you vote to approve the minutes as is, then that's how
yeah.
that works.
I make a motion.
So if I don't have a second for converting the minutes back to our policy, then my motion dies.
Okay, yeah, okay, your motion is on the floor.
I propose the motion, but I need a second to actually.
Right, is there a second to Niffy's motion? Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the, minutes from May 23rd, and I'm looking for a second.
I second.
Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes from May 23rd?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so it does pass. Got it? Okay. Next is 3.1, the treasurer's report. Niffy?
One moment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's fine. I had everything on my other laptop pulled up and then
Oh,
brought this one.
okay.
Our treasurer's report for the period covering May 2024, total expenditures 31,325. We have, as mentioned at the last meeting, expended $6,567 through the month of May for legal fees. We have $1,000 for EMT training. Any comments on that, Chief?
No, I think that's the final practical for one of our firefighters in the community.
And then we collected 60,000 approximately in revenue through the treasurer's office for our tax revenue. And our total in our bank account stands at 457,957. So we're continuing to maintain that healthy backlog, and we are on track with our spending.
Any questions on the treasurer's report from the board? Comments, questions? No? All righty. Chief's report?
I apologize, my voice is a little bit.
Yeah, if you don't feel
You
comfortable
know,
with
it's okay. My voice is still a little bit hoarse, so we'll go through this. The all hazards IGA, which is the first IGA from Jefferson County, has been presented to the board earlier this week for review. It'll be voted on later in the meeting. We expect the second IGA, which is the wildland fire county agreement, to be presented to the fire chiefs relatively soon. We actually had a conversation with the county earlier today, and it sounds like that should be within the next week or so, hopefully. I know we keep on punting that one out. But there's so many people that have to put eyes on these bigger agreements between all of the different departments and the county before we can all sign it. So I think we're finally have the final approvals, and then we'll be able to put it to the boards for everyone to sign. So stay tuned on that one. The biggest thing that occurred in the last month countywide was that Jefferson County Communications suffered a full outage on May 24th and May 25th. This was due to a contractor hitting a water line that damaged their computer systems in kind of really simple forms. It was the most significant and widespread outage that Jeffcom has ever experienced. And thankfully the backup systems with Denver Dispatch were able to assist. And to my knowledge, there were no sentinel events that occurred countywide due to the outage. And then all systems were restored on May 25th. As an aside, please make sure you call 811 before you dig. It's just doing locates is super important, and something as big as this can happen when we don't have everything located. So this was a huge event, and thankfully there's been a lot of lessons that were learned. And with Jeffcom moving to their new building, I believe it's beginning of next year, that some of these systems hopefully will be hardened, and this won't be a possibility moving forward. And I'll actually aside, Chief Enright, I know you're part of that AAR. Do you have anything to add on that?
I do not. There was not really a formal AAR between the agencies. What went out was more of a summary lessons learned and kind of some of that operational communication. What is key to note is that in addition to the ability to transfer 911 dispatching over to another jurisdiction, like was done then, Jeffcom also maintains a full backup center at another location. So with about an hour of lead time, they're able to stand up a second dispatching center outside of and unaffected by anything that takes place at their primary location. So the new dispatching center presumably will solve many of those hardening issues and some of those resiliency issues. But that said, this was kind of the wildest possible way for anything to have gone wrong, with a utility bore cutting the power line between the generator and the building in the narrow space that actually is. It's about as improbable as it could have been, but that's just the nature of things going wrong sometimes.
So I really won't go into any more on that. There's lots of information, I think, through Jeffcom about that incident. If you have any further interest in that. Lutheran Hospital is planning on moving it to its new location at what's now being called Clear Creek Crossing on August 3rd. This is very impactful to the people in the district, as it will significantly decrease our ambulance transport times. By my mapping, it may decrease transport times by about 10 minutes, which is pretty significant. It also decrease our time to definitive trauma care. I believe that they are seeking a high trauma designation for that hospital. It's one of the reasons that they chose the location that they did. And so that we'll have really high trauma care very close to the district. So we're really looking forward to that. And we're looking forward to having that resource available for the citizens of Golden Gate Fire Protection District. If you're interested in the hospital, they do have some online tours that are now available. I do think they're still doing some in-person tours throughout July before opening. But I do know that there's some online tours available. If you just search New Lutheran Hospital, you can go in and look at what the new hospital looks like, the services that they're going to have. I think they talk a little bit about what the transition is going to look like. So that's definitely important for people who live here. Administration, ESM implementation is almost completed. So we did the first half of our implementation this week on Monday, which is our CAD integration. So computer automated dispatch is now currently working on both emergency reporting and on ESO. However, we postponed our full transition a few weeks due to some training and operational priorities. And we'll go into that when we had training. It also had to do with some of the health stuff that I personally had to go through in the last month or so that pushed this out a little bit. But when we looked at all the different things that are going on right now, ESO is continuing to kind of slowly march forward. And then we had some new opportunities come around that we needed to really take advantage of. So we shifted our training priorities to doing that instead of training on transferring over to ESO. So we're still planning on doing that by the end of next month, so by the end of July. All that really has to be done is our firefighters have to go through their training, and then we flip the switch now and everything will switch. We've done all the back end work. So we're looking forward to that change. The Station 82 gym is officially completed. So they've been working on that for a couple of months. The firefighters have, and it's officially completed. It looks great. It's an incredible resource. It's being used probably almost daily at this point by the firefighters. People, I think it's increased the drive for firefighters to come shift. Anecdotally, I don't have numbers on this, but it does seem that our firefighters are now more driven to come to Station 82 for shifts because they know that they can come do a full workout with the resident. Without the resident, they're going to do projects, but they can have that other thing to do up there, whether they're going to go work out for 2 hours, or, intermittently throughout the day. It just gives them that extra incentive to come up and, be in Station 82 is that good gym for them to use. So I do know it's getting used.
One quick question on that. It's tangential. So looking through the transaction report, I saw a lot of the equipment was bought on Amazon, and you can see what it was.
Yeah.
There are some transactions from Amazon, like I can't tell what they are. Who has authorization to order through our Amazon account?
So their authorization, the officers all have authorization to order.
Okay.
And then so does the resident, but we have to approve everything. So myself or Chief Enrider are the only people who have approval authorization.
Okay. Do we have Amazon Prime?
Yes, and it's business in tax or taxes.
Do we have an Amazon Prime card?
Chris, do we have an Amazon Pride card? I don't believe we do.
We do not. We don't actually have Prime. We just have an Amazon business account as
Does that
a
provide
balance
free
for Prime. Say again.
Is it free shipping?
No, but it is with certain quantities and certain items.
Okay,
And it is
so
tax exempt.
I think we should get Amazon Prime and can entertain getting a Prime card, because you get 5% off of literally everything you purchase on Amazon. So not only would we have been saving 4% on the 4.5% on tax exempt,
Yeah.
another 5% cash back, and then getting free shipping on all the items.
Do you know if we can combine? Because I think, so when we went to the business thing, it was because that's how we were going to get the tax exempt. Can we do Prime and tax exempt? Do you know?
I don't know. Well, you can definitely get a Prime account. I don't know if you can
Okay.
get a Prime card. I don't see what would preclude you from getting a Prime card with your business
I was
account.
talking about the Prime account
I don't
with
think
the
there's
tax
anything,
exempt.
I don't
Okay.
think anything would preclude us from getting that.
Okay. Chris, I know you set up that account. Can you look into that?
Sure can.
And all that should be within their spending authority, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think it might just be an upgrading of that account from the tax exempt business account to the Prime account. So as long as with business, as long as it remains tax exempt, I think that would be the factor there.
Great.
Pay the stupid delivery fee, your tax exempt.
It sounds like that there are delivery fees. I don't know why it wouldn't.
It's a 28% fee for the
retail delivery fee.
Oh, I don't know about that.
28 cents per order.
Everyone pays 28
Yeah,
cents per
I
delivery.
guess you probably do, even though we're not paying taxes on it.
That's a economic tax. And
Yeah.
it does a difference.
All
I'd have to look
right,
at that
let's
one.
get back to
Yeah.
the chief's report.
Yeah,
I'll have to look
sorry.
at that thing. All right. So but the good news is that is complete. They stayed underneath their budget with that, and they're definitely using it, which is good. We are pursuing several grant opportunities within the district. The 2024 direct distribution grant just opened. We are going to be submitting for a full SCBA replacement for the entirety of our SCBA fleet within the district. That opened earlier this week. We are looking at federal opportunities for station electrification and battery backup, which I think we'll talk a little bit more. I applied for a grant through the State Internet Portal Authority earlier this month for funding for a contractor to finish our website transition and make sure that we're in full ADA compliance. If you're not aware, there is a law that comes into effect in July about ADA compliance for government websites. So we need to make sure that we're fully compliant, and we're doing that as we roll over into the new website. We do currently have, as you search Golden Gate Fire on Google, our goldengatefire.org, which is our main website, is up, but we also now have the SIPA website that's being built. I think you should be able to see the SIPA website as it's being built. But we have both of them, and we're transitioning everything over and making sure that the new website is the one that's fully compliant.
We'll have a redirect.
Yes, it'll be completely redirected. Yep.
Okay.
And then we've also applied for state and federal funding to offset the CWPP costs. We applied for federal funding a couple of months ago. There's going to be some opportunities coming up as we go into the fall for state funding, hopefully to offset that CWPP cost, even though it's already approved. We're looking at some different opportunities to try to offset that cost for the district. So there's a lot of stuff going on in grants right now. And we're definitely doing the best we can to try to take advantage of that and bring as much grant money as we can into the district. Operations, June was a little bit slower than we anticipated. We're actually now currently at 42 calls for the year. We had 2 calls since I wrote this. Our firefighter turnout really remains high on all calls for service. If you go into the data, we're seeing over 4 firefighters on average per call. I think it's something like 4.8 off the top of my head, firefighters per call, which is really good. If you think about the service that you get in town on any call, usually there's an engine that shows up with 3 or 4 firefighters, and we're providing that at minimum, usually more on any given call for service. So we're pretty happy with that number. The first round of grant awarded bunker gear, which was the 2023 direct distribution grant that we got, were awarded earlier this year, but we applied last year, was distributed to the firefighters yesterday. So they all got new bunker gear yesterday. It was a bunker gear Christmas around here. The second round of grant bunker gear, the firefighter safety and disease award, was submitted for production by our vendor. So we went through make sure that all the ordering is correct, and make sure that there's no hiccups in that, and all the sizing and everything is done. So that's now submitted for production, and that we will see that gear in about 6 to 8 weeks. So after 8 weeks from now, the hope is that all the firefighters have been issued brand new gear, and all the firefighters will then have secondary backup gear. As we've talked about before, this is kind of important because when we go on to a call where we have exposures, or a training when we have an exposure, that firefighter's gear was going out of service, and effectively taking that firefighter out of service when it was being washed. And now they can go into their secondary set of gear while their primary gear is being washed, and it will keep them in service. It also means that when we go to train, and especially in something that's going to be like a high impact, like when we're doing Fire Academy, they can go into their secondary set of gear, and we're saving wear on their primary set of gear. So we're looking forward to having that as in place for the firefighters. Let's see here. Personnel, we're currently still at 23 operational members and 4 support services. When the 2024 Academy is complete in August, we will revisit actively recruiting. We haven't really been putting recruiting out while we've been bringing this group of 6 firefighters through the Academy. It's been such a heavy lift as it is, and we don't want to add more folks, more training kind of halfway through their training experience. So we're kind of looking at doing this more of installments, the traditional way of recruiting for a fire department. So once we're through in August, we'll look at recruiting for 2025. What that probably looks like is actively starting recruiting at the end of the year, with starting new recruits in January or February of next year. So it falls more in line with the community. Training, the Fire Academy continues to progress very well. All recruits passed their hazmat practical, and all but 1 passed their written exam. So that will be, and they'll be retaking their written exam pretty quickly here, and we'll pass it the second time, hopefully. The majority of the several, I shouldn't say the majority, actually, I was mistaken in that one, of the Academy had also passed their Firefighter 1 written exam. Most of them are taking it, I believe, this week. Chris, is that correct? I think most of the writtens are this or next week.
I'm actually not sure on that.
I believe that's correct. So most of the Firefighter 1 written exams will be done by the first week of July, most definitely by the next board meeting. We are anticipating holding the final firefighter practical on July 20th. We did discuss this yesterday during our ops meeting, and we do actually think that this is going to kick out to August, just to make sure that we're giving them enough time so that we're setting our firefighters up for success for their final practical. So they'll, at this point, it looks like probably a live burn in July, on July 20th in Clear Creek, and a couple other maybe down in Arvada, with a practical in early August, and then graduation. So we're definitely at the end of this tunnel, and we are almost got them all the way through, which is great. It's been quite the lift for us, and it's a huge lift for Chief Brill, and we definitely appreciate everyone who's putting in the mass amounts of time that it's taken to get this academy off the ground. As many saw in the district, Golden Gate Fire was very fortunate to host the DFBC live fire trailer right here at Station 83 for the last 3 weeks. During this time, our recruits and firefighters were able to have basically full access to multiple live fire evolutions and to use it as a training prop, which can be very difficult for us to accomplish up here without a dedicated training center. So we really took great advantage of having that prop here. And that's another big thank you to Chief Brill for putting that together, and a huge thank you for DFPC for letting us take some time on the trailer that wasn't already dedicated, and not having it sit in Golden, let us take it up here. It really helped us get the recruits to where they are now. It also allowed our firefighters some good training, incident command training, and allowed them to get their live fire checkoffs for their JPRs. So we were really glad to have that. Probationary firefighter Chris Creech has completed his didactic portion of his EMT course, and is now moving on to his hands-on portion. I believe that's the beginning of July. Chief Enright attended the Colorado Wildland Fire or Incident Management Academy, which was in Cripple Creek at the beginning of June, and he completed his O305, which is All Hazards IMT, Incident Management Training, or Incident Management Team certification. Station 81. Station 81 is in its very final stages of completion. I know we had talked about wanting Station 81 to be done by the end of this month and having a barbecue. There are a lot of little things that need to be done at the end of any project, and we're in the little things phase. So we're just trying to knock out these little things. I think the hope is, after the ops meeting yesterday, is that the little things have all been done by the end of next week. But we wanted to make sure that all of those little things are done and we're presenting the full complete package to the community before we show it off. Those are things like painting and installing a few new doors, touching up a couple of some interior paint. After the meeting yesterday, we are thinking that we're going to be hosting that barbecue at the end of July. We also don't want to interfere with the upcoming holiday. So it should be mid to end of July, probably again before that next board meeting. So I appreciate that. And we appreciate that, the patience with the station. We were again, made the decision to shift some of our focus away from trying to finish the station with volunteer labor when we got the trailer opportunity to have the trailer. So that's where we made the decision that we were going to move ESO, and we were going to delay the station a little bit and put our effort towards the recruits and towards training when we had the opportunity to have the trailer when that came up. And that was literally like a one day, hey, we may be able to do this. And then, yes, we can do this. And we need to kind of move everything else around and do the shell game in order to take advantage of that opportunity. We really look forward to sharing the station with everybody. That's pretty much all I have. Any questions on the chief's report?
Okay, thank you. A community organization reports, auxiliary DD.
Just same old. February's coming up September 14th.
Okay, and the Grange, Terry?
Gearing up for a root sale at the end of July. We did participate with a roundtable with Together Jeffco earlier this week. Other than that, that's it.
Thank you. All right. Under old business, we've forwarded that, Station 83. Tech, Chief, you want to talk about tech integration? Net
Yeah,
activation.
I'll start and then I'll pass this off to Chief Enright. So after the last board meeting, we went back to FirstNet and we requested a trial to be able to test reception of FirstNet and Band 14 within the district. They were kind enough to authorize 2 eSIMs for myself and Chief Enright to do testing via cell phones within the district. And anecdotally, I think we do have some hard numbers or a little bit of data on this. It is significant in our ability to get data within the district, even within the canyon, especially on the vehicles that we have a cell extender on. So, for example, most folks don't have any reception here at the Grange with a cell extender on FirstNet, we have 2 bars of reception. Not only can we get data, but we can get voice, and we're not on we're completely separate from the Starlink. We have that amount of power that we can actually transmit here. However, the data is pretty continuous with 5G or 5G Edge. It's pretty much all the way up the canyon. The thing that's also important for us is that when we think about where the homes are placed and where we respond to calls in the district, the only time we're really down in the canyon is during motor vehicle accidents. But when we're responding to homes, they're usually on higher points, in which we actually have better line of sight to the tower. And so with that band 14, where we have priority and a higher transmit and receive capability, especially when we have the receiver with antenna, we really do have pretty good reception for the data transmission that we need to be able to run TAC, as well as ESO, and have the communications back and forth with TriTech and CAD, which is through dispatch. The other thing, before I kick this over to Chief Enright, is that we also have looked at what the future holds as far as data in emergency services, especially because it comes to cell phones and satellites. And within the next 12 to 24 months, we do expect to see a lot of satellite data being able to come directly to cell phones, whether that comes from Starlink, or, as many people know, even the iPhone 18 or whatever, the iOS 18 update that just is happening is allowing emergency messaging through a satellite. That's kind of a proof of concept that's allowing satellite data to go back and forth between a phone, directly from a cell phone to a satellite. And as far as we've seen, next year, Starlink will be able to allow data transmission from a cell phone, from a government entity, a fire department, and potentially some mission critical businesses directly to a satellite, which will basically completely eliminate any issues with that moving forward. So if for some reason we continue to have pockets where we're not getting reception with a FirstNet, all we're going to see is improvement. And I know that there's some other options with MeshNet or with some mesh stuff, and we'll let Chief Enright kind of take it from there before I get too tripped up into stuff I don't really know what exactly I'm talking about with the tech. So Chris, take it from there.
Just a quick question around that. Have we driven through the park? Have we gone up through, I don't know, go back on the Baldwin's land and see what it looks like? What I'm thinking of is, yes, I know we're responding to homes primarily, and we're responding to vehicle accidents primarily. How does this work in a wildland fire?
Chief or Enright, do you want to address that?
Granted, a wildland fire is probably starting at somebody's house, but
Backcountry rescues too.
yeah.
I'll note, today we have relatively good signal in most of our parks. Particularly White Ranch and Galbraith have Verizon signal with 5G today and are reliable on band 14 FirstNet as well. Looking back in some of kind of the darker portions of the district, simply as they're more shaded, more obscured, more covered, we haven't been able to directly test that, as there hasn't been an opportunity to do a proper go out, measure signal strength operation. I think just owing to being tied up with the higher priority training needs of the agency. However, I am confident with the limited and 2-person testing that was done. I'm confident that we have reliable signal in a majority of the district, as opposed to today with Verizon or just simple AT&T, less than a majority of the district. For example, at the fire that occurred yesterday up at Missouri Lakes, I was able to communicate from the ICP back when nobody else was able to do so. None of our other firefighters that weren't on AT&T FirstNet. So it's been tested successfully. I'm confident that we have good depth of network and good reliability. Is it perfect? No. I think with the addition and continued installation of cell boosters in our vehicles, notably in the rescue and the chief's car, those provide the rest of that gap. Seeing that increase in signal strength and that local boost really does seem to be the solution that makes this successful for us. What I guess I'll ask is, Kyle, did the doc make it out to the board, and do I need to kind of go through it in detail, or would folks just prefer Q&A?
I was able to send it to them. I think it's pretty in depth. And because we have members of the audience that weren't able to see it, it's up to, I guess, the board if they want to go through it and have him read through it, or.
Let's read it on our own time. And then I guess we can discuss at the next meeting instead of trying to approve it now.
Right.
Because we were saying we would punt it anyway.
Yeah.
Does that work for you?
What were we sent? I'm sorry.
It came right before the meeting.
I didn't see anything.
It came 5 minutes ago.
It's-
Or 5 minutes before the meeting started. So
I can't get.
Chief,
it's, go ahead.
So Chief Enright basically put together a one-page document about TAC and the integration, and also included, we created an SOG for communication that goes along with it.
Standard operating guidelines.
Yep, standard operating guidelines. So all that was wrapped up and given to board members. Because we don't have a updated quote for the hardware that we're looking at, we were kind of waiting for FirstNet. And then we gave this to the board for consideration, but I think at this point, waiting until next month when we have the full package is.
Chief,
Yeah.
what we can do in the meantime is approve the individual data packages for converting our Google Voice numbers over to AT&T FirstNet. We can do that today. Those amounts are known. Those are those service amounts of $44.99 a month for each device. So today, for a commitment of $89 per month, we can start the implementation if that's acceptable. Obviously, that's within purchasing authority, but obviously with advice and consent of the board.
And that would be converting our current, so we currently use, Chief Enright and I currently use Google Voice for the phone numbers that we have for the fire district. And we pay, I believe, $12 a month for those. So it would be a net increase of about $30 a month.
Didn't we already budget $50 a month for your cell phone?
Separate.
That's separate? Is that a different phone?
Yeah, that's all through, that was through, you know, in the budget itself.
Yes. I thought we had like a cell phone allowance for the chief of $50 a month.
I don't think it's in the budget.
Should be. It's in your package.
Oh, you're talking about this is specifically for the fire departments, because it all goes to one phone. So
Okay.
that's the thing.
Oh, so we're
Yeah.
replacing.
We're replacing the number.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm confused.
Okay.
How is this different from what, you're just talking about two phones, but this is not and it's a different number than the dollar number than the actual cost of the FirstNet service or the Kotak integration or something. Last meeting.
I
That
think
was
in general, I think what we should do, if it's okay with the board, I would suggest that Chris, I think we continue with our trial. And then we present the whole thing next board meeting with everything included.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think taking the time to be able to read through the
Piecemeal.
report is gonna be, it's long.
There's the service and the item.
So there's a couple reports and then there's a mapping amendment in there as well. So like, let's take our time, let's get those online, allow folks to read it, digest it, and then come back and do a Q&A. And then by then we should have the full quote.
Yes.
Yeah,
Originally, the hardware that we had spec'd with FirstNet wasn't gonna have all the functionality that we needed.
Mhm.
Where we weren't gonna have the CAT communication. And that's when we said, okay, after having a conversation with them, they needed to send us something different, and that's what we're still waiting on.
So
So
it won't be free anymore, like it was.
we actually aren't sure. It should be still subsidized,
Mm-hmm.
if not free.
Okay.
But AT&T is providing the special phones, the high power phones for you, right?
That would be that we're talking about, those are the tablets themselves. The
Phone service.
The phone service that goes to the tablet, that's the packet, that's the subscription that we're talking about.
Looks like they're just going off AT&T towers.
It's AT&T towers with one exception. So there's something called band 14, which is only for emergency responders. So it's a priority band on the cell tower.
So, well, hold on, one moment, sir, it's not, community, open comment time. We discussed, how FirstNet works at the last meeting, and like the literature on FirstNet is quite extensive and is available online. Moving on.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so we're putting that over to next month. Any action on it?
Let's do that.
So, and right, if we can go back to them and just tell them we need to continue our trial for a month.
Good
And then
deal.
we can collect some harder data as well.
Can
See
do.
if-
That good with you, Chris?
Yeah, no problem.
It'd be good to maybe ask if there's someone who would let you get like into backcountry or something, or just, if the parks all already have good service and that's intentional that they have good service, then we want to see something different.
Yeah.
I don't want to approve a big expenditure and then it doesn't work
Yes.
in like one of the most critical situations. Like, so what did we spend all that money on if you can't get signal on a backcountry rescue or the wildland fire?
And I think this gives us another month when we go back to the rep and say, hey, we're gonna need to do this another month. It does allow us to use it in real world scenarios like that.
Okay,
And then hopefully, we will have those calls within the next month.
okay.
We've only been testing it, I think, for like the last week and a half. So it does give us a little bit more time to actually put it in the real world and see how it works. So, all right, here you go.
Okay, 4.3 is review and approval of Jeffco All Hazards IGA, which I have printed out.
So the IGA is, like I said, part of multiple IGAs that were part of a package between the fire districts and Jefferson County Emergency Management. So this IGA was sent to us by Jeffco EM and Jefferson County's legal. It's pretty standard. We've reviewed it, both myself and Chief Enright have reviewed it. Essentially, all it's really saying is it outlines what it looks like for us to request mutual aid and assistance. And then what's kind of expected by the county and by the fire districts when that happens. So it just kind of like puts some guidelines and some fences around and some definitions around what is the initial period, what is a mutual aid period, what's a responding party, who's in command and control, and then the guidelines that we're all operating kind of in the same manner. So this is the first of those IGAs. The second one, which is the wildland fire IGA, is much more complex than this one. But this is this is how we all play together essentially.
And how many fire districts?
So there's all the fire districts in Jefferson County.
Everything.
Okay,
So all the fire districts in Jefferson County and then the county will have this IGA.
this needs to be signed.
What I need from you guys is approval for me to sign it.
Okay,
You're the executor on that? I don't think
I
the board
can't-
has to sign.
So there's only there's only one spot to sign it.
There's one spot to sign it, and then there's the point of contact. So I think the board would potentially move and approve it. Deb would sign it as president and
That
then
works for
list
me.
you as the
Yeah,
contact.
that works
That's
for
how I read it.
Yeah, that's fine. I think the one thing that I do want to point out in this is, and this is going to become kind of a continual theme and where some of this comes from is under reimbursement and compensation. What this is really starting to outline the relationships between the fire districts and the counties, and then the fire districts with each other, as far as who's financially responsible for the cost of an incident. And a lot of that gray area of who's financially responsible when something happens is basically going away with all of these IGAs. And I want to make sure that the board has read that and understands that, where that falls with reimbursement and compensation.
So,
Give an example.
well, I originally interpreted it as, so like when we went on, what was the call, off Morrison,
Hogback Ridge.
Hogback Ridge. So when we responded, we got paid for our time while we were there. Or when folks were responding to other large fire incidents, those departments, the firefighters got paid for their response. My question and what I'm concerned about here is every time Timberline shows up or West Metro shows up for an accident, are we paying for them?
So and it's actually not as well outlined in this one as it is in the IGAs that are coming. So we do have outlined what's called the initial response period. Or initial attack period. During the initial attack period, that mutual or auto aid is not something that we bill each other for.
Okay.
When we go into or expanded periods, that's when billing comes into play. So it's usually beyond 24 hours. So if we have an incident that expands beyond 24 hours is when something becomes billable. And that's again where these IGAs are coming into play. The thing that also is important, however, is our responsibility for a large fire that occurs within our fire district, right? So let's say that we have a large fire that occurs on private land within our fire district. Everything beyond that 24 hours, unless we kick it up to the county and the state, which they're really good about going through the complexity analysis and taking responsibility. But there's a possibility that we are on the hook for that cost. And so this is being very clearly outlined between the county and the districts, and then districts and the districts, and then the state and the county and the districts. So that's what we're trying to make sure that everyone understands where that comes into play.
I don't want the cost thinking about, oh, let's not call mutual aid because we're afraid it's going to cost something to deter us from saving lives, property, etc.
And that's basically what a lot of this is saying, is that realistically, that unless something really catastrophic was to happen, where there was a significant error that was made, there's going to be that help from the county and from the state, right? The state has resources that they call the Christmas tree that we can essentially ask for immediately, and we know that they're going to be, or that we're not going to see a bill for it.
Do we pay the county for their response?
No.
No, okay. And then a county like incident command could call in.
Correct. And once the county assumes the command of the incident, once we do a transition from Golden Gate Holding Command to an incident management team, the county incident management team, which we may be part of that team, but it's expanded, then they have assumed responsibility. And then same thing happens when the state assumes responsibility and federal. So when you hear about, FEMA coming in and assuming responsibility for an incident, well, FEMA is assuming financial responsibility for that incident. So does that make sense? We're just trying to really make sure that all of this is written down and it's understood between everybody.
I had another question on liability. If one of our firefighters is called in for mutual aid to another jurisdiction,
Correct.
and they are injured due to negligence of, somebody else, is that excused per this IGA?
So the IGA requires that every jurisdiction maintains insurance coverage for their liability and also for damage, as well as for personal injury. So basically a full insurance package is required for all the fire districts and the county. Realistically though, if we have a firefighter that gets injured on an incident, it should be covered by the fire district's fire insurance.
Okay.
Our insurance follows our guys.
Yes.
I just, if somebody gets hurt because someone else is making a dumb decision.
Yeah.
I want people to be accountable for that. That's all.
And that I think it would be a, you know, a unique situation. I don't know. I mean, that's usually where liability insurance comes in.
Okay.
Like, so that's why each jurisdiction is also required to have that liability.
I would move to approve the Jefferson County Emergency Mutual Aid Intergovernmental Agreement.
I will second that.
I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 So Deb, if you can sign it, and then I will,
You want me to sign the hard copy?
if you can
Yes.
sign a hard copy, and then I'll submit it to the Kinley.
Do
Okay,
you want
show
something
me.
that's in black instead of blue?
Yeah.
Your printer running all in ink there?
Let's who had printer ink out. We just need to show me where I'm supposed to sign because
So,
it's not clear to
So if
me.
you can just under jurisdiction, Golden Gate, and then your name, the title, today's date, and then we can include me as the point of contact. And then approval as to from, and then you put the board of directors. And I think actually, if you want to have the other two board members sign
Yeah.
right there, then that would be.
Okay. I'm sorry, jurisdiction is, can we do this after?
It's approved.
I don't want to mess it up. All right. Okay, under new business, authorization for fire insurance research and presentation, that you, Niffy?
So I've heard lots of radio stories about communities around the country, whether it's where they're hit by hurricanes and floods in Florida or constant wildfires in parts of California, where insurance agencies are straight up dropping them or pulling out of the states entirely. So I would like to perhaps get a panel or a presentation from a few insurance agents in the area to hopefully provide some question to answer about what you can do for your personal property to ensure that you can stay insured. If there's advice they can give us to our district for, these are things that your fire district should be doing, and you can report these to insurance companies that say, hey, you are taking these certain steps. These homes are insurable, and this is why. I just hope, I don't want to get to a point where for some of us, the most expensive asset we'll ever own in our life is uninsurable. So I'm asking for leave to be able to reach out to some agents and hopefully schedule something in the next couple months.
That would be a community-wide meeting?
That's what I'd like it to be. It could be like a presentation, kind of like what we had from Jeffcom,
Mhm.
something like that.
Right.
It wouldn't have to be like a board meeting, it just
No,
like.
just
No,
a community
shouldn't be a
meeting,
board meeting.
information.
Street, or you come up from Jefferson County.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
That kind of a deal.
Yeah.
I don't know that the board actually has to do that. I'm just giving myself work to do, if it's okay.
I do know that that's been successful. Evergreen's done some stuff like that.
Okay.
Where they have basically an open forum and they have insurance agents and or representatives that are sitting on like the insurance committee,
Mhm.
be able to come in and answer questions. I think was highly attended.
Okay. I'm gonna look into that. If you know where that is, send it to me.
Yeah, I will. I think I may have a contact for who put that together. I'll reach out to them and do an introduction.
That'd be awesome.
No,
So
I
I
don't
moved,
think does it need a motion for you to?
if I'm gonna be speaking on behalf of the district, I need approval for
Well, why
that.
don't you not move then and I'll move,
Okay.
since you're gonna be doing the work. I move that we authorize NIFI to contact insurance experts to advise the district and the community on how to stay insured for fire.
I'll second that. I'll call the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Okay. Thank you, Niffy.
Okay.
I can help you with that if you want.
That'd be great.
Okay, I'll help you. Next, 5.2 authorization for FEMA grant application for battery energy storage. BESS, we know what that is now, and 83 drainage, that's Kyle and Niffy.
So I'll take the lead on the overall for the FEMA grant, there's what's called the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. When President Biden declared an emergency in the state of Colorado for wind and water damage that took place, it opened up funding for the affected counties and across the entire state to allow jurisdictions to apply for certain funds. One of those in particular is backup generators. We have backup generators already, and we've already experienced where a generator runs out of fuel and then the station goes down and pipes freeze and et cetera. The alternative that we're also allowed to do with that is what's called BESS, or battery energy storage systems. It's basically like a Tesla battery, like in a car, it's a giant battery on the wall that can back up all or parts of a station. And you can have control schema that like say, hey, it's just the doors, it's just the heat, it's just a couple of things that get backed up. Or we can get a system that's large enough to back up all of the stations for up to 3 days, potentially in combination with solar. So the grant is is eligible for up to $1 million in funding per jurisdiction. So we can really make a significant impact up here by getting that kind of battery storage. Further, because some of our stations may not have been wired appropriately to do individual switching, it also covers the rewiring of those stations in order to make them completely effective in that way. I'm specifically asking for authorization. I did submit a draft application last 2 weeks ago. And the final application is due on August 5th. I did have authorization to start pursuing grants. The issue here is that this grant does require a match. It's 25%. For this portion of the grant involving battery energy storage, there's a program called from the Inflation Reduction Act called the Investment Tax Credit Direct Pay Program. What that is for normal taxpayers like us, if you want to put solar or batteries in your house, you get 30% of it back as a tax credit. The district doesn't pay taxes. This program now allows non-tax paying entities, whether it's nonprofits, governments, fire districts, et cetera, to get a direct payment that would be equivalent to 30% of the cost. Speaking to the grant administrator, we can use that direct payment as our contribution, as our match.
That's your match.
So ostensibly, this is free if we get awarded it. There's work to be done. There's work to be done in order to make sure that that gets done, but we will have it completely paid for, hopefully through federal grants. The grant administrator for FEMA in Colorado is awesome. She's super helpful. I've been working with her for some of my, yes.
What was the name of the sorry, what was the name of the 30%?
It's the
funding source?
Inflation Reduction Act,
Oh.
Investment Tax Credit, Direct Pay or Elective Pay Program. A lot of words. But it's money that we've been paying. And, you know, now we're eligible to get that funding.
Oh, that's awesome.
I think, as we've talked about, it would be really impactful for us as we've had issues with not only with the like just gas, but the generators in general and the cost that we pay on an annual basis to maintain those generators. It just makes everything simpler and it will decrease our long-term costs for maintenance. I just think that in general would be a really good thing for our stations, and it would really help us be more resilient, especially during large weather events. It would be a really good thing for us.
You need a motion?
There's also an element of that, and that's the 80th. Well, I can just speak to it. It's we can also get because this was directly related to flooding in Colorado, there's a separate element of that grant which can cover flood mitigation for Station 83. So if there's mitigation that needs to take place, this can cover up to 75% of that as well. So if we've budgeted for doing that anyway, the one caveat is you can't do a single thing until the grant is awarded, and that could take up to 8 months. So we kind of have to wait. So, but it's, I mean, I'll wait if it's.
Yeah, we'll wait.
So I move that I be allowed to continue to work with Chief Enright and staff to pursue these that particular grant, the hazard mitigation grant for battery energy storage systems and for the Station 83 drainage. I'm not encumbering us with any cost at this point, but I need you to understand that if we are awarded the grant and we accept it, it will result in some cost potentially, but we should be able to defray a good chunk of it through other methods.
You said Chief Enright, you meant Chip.
No, it's okay. Actually, Chief Enright would probably be involved in this anyways because of his tech, so.
My bad.
Okay, I'll second that motion. Any questions, Matt?
I have no questions.
Okay, I'll call the motion, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Niffy, thank you.
Bet.
Awesome. So
Um,
exciting. All right, 5.3 is authorization to work with chief and others on designs and estimates for the battery energy storage thing.
So I can do some of this stuff on my own, but I think that it would be better if we could get some contractors in and some different firms in to give us some bids and give us an idea of what this would cost in terms of this battery storage. I don't want to ask for too little money and then we're upside down, and I definitely don't want to ask for too much money and then they're like, you don't need that much for what you're asking for, and they either reject it out of hand, but they could like right size it for us is the other option. And then the addition to the agenda that I had was 5.4, and that is for the public buildings electrification grant. Let me speak to that now. That is a grant from the state of Colorado for converting buildings that are publicly funded from running on fossil fuels to running on electricity. So ostensibly it would be taking our heating of our buildings and our water and our cooking and converting them to electric using heat pumps or other similar technologies so that we never have a risk of running out of propane on site, and that it can be backed up by battery directly or even with a generator. But it makes it so that we have longer use of our generator in the event that we need it as a backup. And it also allows us to what do you call it? Excuse me, to just basically convert everything over. And that grant is up to 750,000. And again, you have to match 250,000. The first part of that grant is a planning phase, and it's for a study where we can pay for what's called an ASHRAE Level 2 energy study. It allows for up to $8,000 to be paid towards that study. The way that what it can pay for is paid directly for the chief and other agents' time in pursuing the grant and doing the designs. And then on the other side, I can donate I'll have to talk with my company about signing an agreement that says I'm donating my time at, I think they cap it at $100 an hour, up to 30 hours. So that $3,000 that I'm donating would be a match for that, the rest of the study, and pay for everything else that we need.
So donation in kind.
Donation in kind. So
Where is this grant from? Where is the source of this?
the public buildings electrification grant comes from the Colorado Energy Office. It is a state funded grant. I actually just had clients awarded 2 weeks ago for $2.25 million in funding towards the electrification of their buildings. The grant administrator there, Brittany Van Kern, is actually also very awesome and very helpful. And, she's like, we're here to spend all of the money. We're here to actually invest in our communities and help them become more resilient. I did forget to mention, as part of the hazard mitigation grant, the solar is also a part of that one. So it's the combination of battery energy and solar so that you can go multiple days without losing power.
Okay,
And I need to be able to, bring contractors to start talking about the electrification stuff and the getting bids, design, et cetera. And I also I need to be able to get into fire stations and look at the air distribution and heating systems.
okay, there are two items.
They're two,
Do
sorry.
you want to run them together or?
I would move that I have approval to pursue the public buildings electrification grant and authorization to work with the chief and others to get designs and estimates for both electrification, battery energy storage, and solar.
So the motion will cover both.
We'll cover both.
Both.
Marathon, I need to send you an email.
I think I got all that, but you could send me the verbiage, that would be nice.
got it.
I'll second that.
I'll call the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Again, Niffy.
Thank you.
Sometimes things line up where I'm like doing stuff at work. I'm like, I could do that here. Let's do this. So that's exciting.
All right, we're down to public comment.
The rules for public comment are each community member can raise their hand and will have 3 minutes to state their opinion, limited to 1 time. No rebuttals from any board member are allowed in opinions or comments. Each community member can raise their hand, and when called on will be allowed 1 minute to ask a clarifying question, limited to 1 time. The president will answer the question or appoint a specific board member to answer with a 1 minute time limit. I think we can also, what we did at one meeting was you could ask a board member a direct question if it was of that specific person.
Public comment, anyone? Aaron?
Looked online for a document outlining the FirstNet and TAC documentation information. I didn't find a document I reviewed for those specific details.
You talking about the,
Hold on, is that a question? Is that a statement?
Yeah, but is there a document that's not on the website?
right here on our website, on the fire department's website?
Yeah.
I need to review what Chief Van Wright, before it gets voted on. Before it gets voted on, we can post some stuff on there, but there's tons of information on FirstNet available online. But we do have some documentation we should be able to post before it gets voted on.
That help?
Sure.
Okay,
I'm also confused as to.
Point of order, I just read the rules for community comments. Each community member can raise their hand and will have 3 minutes to state their opinion, limited to 1 time. No rebuttals from any board member allowed on opinions or comments. Each community member can raise their hand and when called on will be allowed 1 minute to ask a clarifying question, limited to 1 time.
Still my 1 time.
You asked your questions.
It's not 1 question, it's 1 time.
Are there any other community
I have 3
questions?
minutes. I haven't said everything I want to say in like 3 minutes.
Sir, I asked you if you had a comment or a question. You replied that you had a question. You have an opportunity to ask 1 question 1
That's
time.
not what you said. You said, yeah,
All right, we're moving on. Are there any other comments or questions?
1 question.
Okay, community comment or public comment is closed.
You can now.
he can ask a second question for him, I think.
No, it says 1 question 1 time. That's what the rules,
Okay.
I'm reading verbatim.
But I can, if nobody else has any further questions, I can ask again.
No, you cannot. The public comment is closed.
Okay.
Okay, a community member can raise their hand and have 3 minutes to state their opinion. No rebuttal. Then, wait a minute, then each community member can raise their hand when called on, will be allowed 1 minute to ask a clarifying question. Are you looking for a clarifying question?
Sure.
He asked his question already.
Okay,
His
let's
question
just
was
let
about-
it happen.
Yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
Okay, you may have 3 minutes to make a statement or opinion. There will be no response from the board.
I'm confused as to how converting a building from direct renewable fuel, propane fuel heating to electric and then running a generator on the same fuel is somehow going to make your fuel last longer when in Colorado now you're required for a fuel fired furnace in a building to be 90% efficient, meaning you get 90% of the BTUs out of the fuel into heat into the house. A propane engine is at best 35% efficient. You have a big radiator on the outside that's putting the rest of the heat that you don't get into the torque into the engine, it's just going into the atmosphere. And then you're going to generate electricity with that, and there's inefficiencies in the generator. And then you're gonna go and put that electricity into a heating coil inside a building, and that's also not 100% efficient.
It's actually 4 times more
No,
efficient.
No, no comment.
You're not allowed to respond.
You're correct. You are absolutely correct.
So, it doesn't make sense to me how that's more efficient than just keeping the fuel fired furnace in the building and then having a generator. And if you need more runtime on the generator, then you just get a bigger tank. So that's all.
Thanks for your
Good,
opinion.
thank you. Any other public comment, Terry?
Maybe.
Yes.
Chief, thank you for working on these grants and doing this. I don't know all the nuts and the bolts of the details, but I appreciate that you're reaching out to some professionals as well to make sure this is the right thing. So thank you guys for doing that for this community.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Next board. Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. I was looking down. Valerie.
I'm confused about the track and then the phone lines, the FirstNet. You don't have to have that FirstNet in order to make the track work. Is that what I'm understanding?
Can I go? So TAC is essentially a application that is from the state that it allows us through the state and the county that is both mapping and communication between ourselves and also between us and Jefferson County Communications. FirstNet is a cell provider or a cell service that's provided through AT&T that is a higher band level than standard cell service that provides better coverage and allows us to use the data or get the data that we would need to use TAC. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if I understand it, did you say that Starlink within the next 12 months or so will be able to provide that same kind of?
That's what they're proposing or what they're saying. There's no timeline. Just when you go onto the Starlink website, that's their timeline. So they have, if you look on this business or the emergency portion for emergency communications, they have it on their timeline.
Because if I recall last month's meeting, we talked about phone, it's like $30-something a month, and you wanted 11.
Val, sorry.
9, I think.
Oh, one question. I will pass a non sequitur to the president of the board. We will have all of the budget items and the outline and description of everything for TAC and the fees and
At the next
FirstNet
meeting.
it will be posted
Yes.
within the next week, and we will discuss it further at the next meeting because we don't have the full set of information. I was talking to Deb.
Oh, thank you. You that she heard it. She did hear it, but that's okay. All right. Anything else from our public or online? Have there been any questions
No
online?
comments online.
Okay. Next meeting is July 25th. I'm sorry, 7 o'clock right here. And I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.